So, I would like to talk to you guys today about something slightly controversial, and this is helping others. I take it upon myself with this YouTube channel and leadership and being in the industry for so long to always help others. However, I feel like people in the industry sometimes don't feel the same way, and it's slightly vexing. And this is definitely going to be one of those episodes that are going to be slightly controversial, but for a good reason, I hope. And I hope you guys learn a lot from it. So, without further ado, let's get started with this episode. So a few weeks ago, we actually crossed over the 100 episode mark. So thank you very much to everybody that tuned in. For those that haven't, and for those that this is the first time that we meet, my name is Harvey Newman. I like to share my passion for game development, animation, art, and all kinds of stuff here in this channel with all of you. Now, without further ado, let me get right into it. And basically, I'm going to start this episode with the negatives first and then leave the positives for the end. So what do I mean by helping others? I actually started my career in games early 2000s, right? 2002, 2003 as a QA. Right from the get-go, I actually saw some of the negativity that exists in the industry. When I started, I was working on this company that was basically doing QA for Microsoft. I don't know if the company exists anymore. It's called Volt. Basically, they bring people in for a week, for a few days to test a game. And then they keep you on contract, right? So you can actually come in all the time. It's a lot of fun, obviously. You know, my first job doing QA, testing great games like Halo and Knights of the Old Republic was great. But you have to be a really good tester. You have to find, bugs. You have to find issues with the game because that's what they're paying you for. Because if the game doesn't have any issue, then great. It passes certification and it's all good. So that puts a lot of pressure on you. What I found is that right from the beginning, there was people in it just for themselves, and there was not a lot of people that were willing to help each other, right? I had a lot of questions right at the beginning when I started about how can I play games faster, better, what makes me a good tester, how can I come back here as often as possible because I need to make a living, I need to pay bills, I don't want to work anywhere else because I'm really having fun testing games, so how can I stay here and just make this a living? Unfortunately, even though I made a lot of friends over there was not a lot of answers, and it was basically because the structure of that company specifically was there to kind of like just almost putting us against each other, right? Because that competition over playing games, so who plays faster, makes you a better player and makes you actually finish games faster and you find more bugs, etc, etc. Even though it was a good experience in terms of I started in the games industry, in terms of playing games and having a feel for what it was like, I felt detrimental to my health because I felt like every single waking moment I was either waiting for a call to actually go and test some games or thinking about how can I actually get myself back here for another week, right? So that was really bad. The boss was kind of stubborn and weird, and he really didn't care about anybody else except for himself. That was really bad, horrible experience. So as I actually continued walking through my QA years, I started working at Sega. The beginning was wonderful, but the ending, the way I left the company was really horrible. I came into the office as if it was a regular day. They called me to an office somewhere else, and they basically told me, pick up your things, the security is gonna escort you downstairs, leave the office, never come back because we don't need you anymore. There was not a really reason behind me kind of like being let off, and it was bad because I needed that job to pay the bills because at that point I just finished university, or I was about to finish university, really low on money. That's another example that I felt that was very unjust, and people just like looking after themselves because the management changed, and the management was very much about I am going to make sure that I look good at the eyes of people, right? At the cost of other people. That was really horrible. Now, a few years went past, finally got into animation, and I felt like because the games industry is so competitive it's really obvious that even though there's lots of wonderful people, there is a lot of people that are in it for themselves. And what I mean by that is that they think that in order for me to succeed, somebody else needs to fail. And that is a horrible feeling to have when you actually working on a creative environment. What happens as you work in games development, as you get experience, is that you realize that there is cycles to this thing. And what happens is that you either have a positive cycle or a negative cycle. And if you have a positive, you remember the positive people and why it was a wonderful experience. But if it was negative, you also remember why you shouldn't actually have to go through this and what kind of people you shouldn't kind of like let around you or guide you, or maybe the lead or supervisor was not so good. So you know what kind of lead or supervisor you don't want. That's for sure, right? So this takes me to the positive of this all, because through the negative experiences, and this has been happening to me since I was a child, because I was raised as a foster kid, and in order for me to get to the point that I am now, I kind of had to endure a lot of bad stuff. But through that bad stuff, you kind of analyze it and you kind of just take the good and the bad and you kind of mix them together. You kind of go, I want to go more this way and less that way. So to me, it was a positive experience overall, even the negatives. But for anybody else out there that actually has a difficulty in basically traversing the negativity, I just kind of want to talk about why it's so important for you to help others. When you go into, let's say you're working in a game and the game is not really well planned or well built, or there's all kinds of bad stuff happening, right? In those situations, that's normally when negativity piles on top of negativity, and then people show the true colors. Now, the true colors could be negative or positive, but if you are that person that is positive, especially if you're experienced, right? Helping others, especially people that are struggling mentally with a situation, you can be a bright light for others so you can help them through difficult times. I cannot stress enough how stressful and how difficult it is to work in this games industry. So you being an example of positive above it all, doesn't matter what, it's super important, but it's incredibly hard because above all, what you'll see is that you feel isolated, especially when there's so much negativity around. It's almost like a Big Brother house. If you guys used to see it way back in the day when it started, you could see that for most of the people are negative, eventually everybody becomes negative. So for you to withstand that feeling of negativity and becoming positive and having a clear mind of where you should be and being the voice of reason, it's really important, and I think it makes a massive impact. And this is just the games industry. Now there's this other side of actually making a difference out there, like, with a YouTube channel and giving you guys advice and talking to you guys. I know of people for sure that are definitely sharing knowledge, but in order to further their career. And that's cool, that's well and cool, as long as you know that this is bigger than you, and this is bigger than just you furthering your career because you're trying to share something with somebody in order for you to look good. I mean, you could arguably say that I'm here doing exactly that, sharing knowledge with you guys, therefore I look good and all that stuff. But I promise you guys that genuinely every single video that I do comes from a really good place. All I want with this YouTube channel is for people to learn a little bit, for people to further themselves a little bit, and hopefully highlight some of the positives and negatives in this industry so you all don't have to go through the same things that I went through, right? So I think that positivity and that realistic feeling of you wanting to make a difference is what matters most. Doesn't matter if you're a game developer or if you're trying to actually help people outside of game development or whatever you do really in life. I think that's incredibly important. So I just want to put a word out there for all of you that are watching this up to this point. Make sure that you put yourself out there, share your experiences, and I really believe that we really need more YouTube channels like this one of people just being honest, people just sharing experiences. I think this is the only way that we can genuinely help people in the long run and make this industry fast forward to a better place. Because if you're not sharing what's going on inside the industry and being honest about it, all the good and the bad, I really feel like we're just gonna go around in circles. Eventually, even though it takes a long time, being positive and being honest takes you to a much better place, much more durable, much more stable place on the long run. When somebody is negative, when somebody is actually has these things going on for them, game development takes a long time. So normally that stuff doesn't last. So keep that in mind as you kind of like are watching this video, as you go through your career, as you try to get into game development, because being honest is incredibly important. It's underrated nowadays, especially with social media, and it's all about me. But being honest, truthful, and actually caring for others more than you care about yourself, it's the name of the game. And I think if we all thought the same way, I think the world would be a better place. After all these years, I know, fact, this industry is wonderful, it's amazing to work with. 2, there's a lot of bad people in it, and you need to watch out for them. And this is why I do these videos for y'all. So, sorry for the rant, if it feels like a rant to you guys. I just had to kind of like take it off my chest a little bit, and I hope it helps you a little bit in your journey. And drop a comment below if you are in the industry and you had a bad experience, or if you are working in any other industry and you felt some of this negativity, some of these people that actually want to kind of like drag you down, but you fought it through and you made it, and now you're in a better place. If you are that, then drop a comment down below. If you are right now going through a bad vibe, also drop a comment down below, because we'd like to help each other and I'd like to hear from you. That's all I had for you guys. Shout out to my Patreons for supporting me in this channel. Check out my Patreon if you haven't so far. Check out my mentorship if you haven't so far. And I shall see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay well, stay safe. Peace.